introduction to the book I just finished reading last night. It's called The Quiet Zone. And the reason it's relevant to this channel is because it talks about the area that we live in Virginia. This actually takes place in West Virginia, but we're right on the border here, the Allegheny Mountains. There's an area called the Green Bank Observatory, and there's what's known as a radio quiet zone. Basically, there's an astronomical observatory, and they require, it's actually like mandated on a state level, to have radio silence, which means, microwaves, Wi-Fi, all kinds of electromagnetic frequencies that are produced from our modern way of life are rigorously controlled in this area. And this book, The Quiet Zone, details what it's like living in a quiet zone, and we're right on the edge. In fact, we just took a drive the other day out towards Pocahontas County where this book takes place, and basically it's the story of a journalist who just by choice decided that he wanted to live a cell phone free life. Even though he had an active, New York City type of lifestyle traveling for journalism. And so when he heard about the Quiet Zone, he was very intrigued by the area, as many people are. It's been covered a lot in media. The Rockefellers back in the day had an encampment in that area. It's been going on for a long time. And basically, this area was chosen a long time ago, decades ago, because it's in the mountains. It already had a low population, and it was sort of somewhat easy to section it off from modernization in terms of advanced technology with radio frequencies. And basically, what the astronomy is doing is tracking sounds from space, and apparently they're able to get information that way. And this technology that they're using they're recording very subtle sounds very far away, and it requires radio quiet. So because of that, as you can imagine, a very interesting sort of community dynamic has arisen in this area. It's about, if I can remember correctly, 13,000 acres somewhat is the area. It's just over on the border of where Virginia crosses into West Virginia. I guess we're in the central part, so West Central Virginia, mostly in West Virginia. And we're so close to it. And it is I didn't actually know that this area was a quiet zone until our local librarian, Britt, who's totally amazing, recommended. She handed me this book, and I couldn't have been more grateful for the recommendation. It really was perfect for me in all the different subject matters that they cover here. And I just found it so coincidental that I chose this area because it is remote, but I didn't know this background, and I just had an instinct I want to be away from the Wi-Fi and all the modern technologies. And little did I know right there, they actually can't even use these technologies. And that's something the book talks about, is that people, of course, they find workarounds, and people do have Wi-Fi, but it is much less significant. And then today we did have satellite internet hooked up to our house, and our wonderful contractor, Kip, that did the job, he said that we're in the radio quiet zone, which from the map in this book, it wasn't clear to me that we were. I know we're on the edge, we're close, but he said that's also contributes to the remoteness here of why we don't have cell signal. And it was just such a trip to be reading about all these places, and then we just decided to take a Sunday drive through the country, and all of a sudden, a half an hour down the road, I'm seeing signs for the Green Bank and all the names of the towns, Marlington, that are mentioned in this book. So anyone that's interested in this area of Virginia, I highly suggest you give this a read. It's really, I thought, well written, because it doesn't just talk about radio frequencies. It goes into interesting kind of lore of the area. For instance, Patch Adams, the clown doctor who supposedly had a hospital, he actually never had a hospital, and that's in that area. So they talk about this in this book. He talks about conspiracy theories about how the observatory might just be a cover story for the fact that the NSA has a whole encampment there where they they need the radio quiet zone because they're filtering informations, you know, I don't want to call it spying, but they're definitely getting information. So it goes into like the conspiracy level of things, but also just like the brass tacks of what's actually going on. And it's just, my heart is so happy to find out that I live in such an interesting area. And if you want to get to know this area, give this book a read. It's by Stephen Kurczy. Sorry, I might be butchering that last name, but I'm sure this is easy to find. This came out somewhat recently. So this is just the beginning of a homesteading book series. As I read books that are relevant to this lifestyle or this area, we'll throw them in a playlist in case you're interested in learning more about these topics too. Thank you very much. Stay tuned. Homestead Overland Virginia out.